Time to cut a hole in the side of this Connex. I've never done it. I don't know if these things are gonna flex or taco or get weird when I start slicing from floor to ceiling and then interrupted cuts to receive the tubing, but we're about to find out. I've tack welded a straight edge on here, gonna use a cutoff wheel, and I hope to get a decent fit up, because as marginal as I am as a welder, a big fit up, a good fit up, is a big deal for me. First lesson, this thing does better climb cutting than undercutting. The undercut started running out, the climb cut stays right alongside the straight edge. So climb cut it is.
So just a couple of things right off the bat. What I'm doing is converting a 20-foot Connex shipping container into a job site office. And this is pretty much new territory for me. And I'm sure I'll be making some mistakes, and I'm sure some of you will know the better way, so please put it in the comments, because I did a little homework online, and other people will look at this video series to get an idea of what they ought to do, and they're going to need to know whatever it is that you know. So please straighten me out. The first challenge is to cut in a 2.0/4.0, that's 2 foot wide, 4 foot tall, single hung window without weakening the side of the container and without being able to get the whole thing into my shop. So I'm stuck doing a lot of this little part of the project in a pretty unhandy space. Full speed ahead. So these little 5-inch diameter cutoff wheels on an angle grinder are fantastic. They're fantastic. You can do things with these that you almost can't do any other way. But you better use full face protection, because they throw sparks like crazy, and sometimes, without warning, they can just fly right apart. And boy, are they loud.
This has been a thrash. In fact, it's been exhausting. Proof of that is I got 2 stupid cuts here to re-weld. I just was spacing out, thinking that it was disposable like this cut. Let's see if this stuff's gonna come out of here. Put a push on that. All right, I'm gonna put the pieces in here tomorrow, run the leg up, put the head in, put the sill in, start welding.
Man, a MIG welder is such a beautiful tool. But they don't like to work in the wind, and they're fussy about clean steel. And when it comes to clean steel, they really hate burning through paint. So I'm grinding down to clean steel wherever I can. And this corrugated siding is actually Core 10 steel, which I think brings its own welding challenges.
So the window industry in the United States has finally pretty much standardized the actual window size with the rough opening call out. It used to be that it was different for each manufacturer, and I think that maybe Anderson or Pella or some of the others, not sure about that, still is not quite in conformity with everything else. Could be wrong. Straighten me out, please. I know you will. But I bought this at a box store because it was the only place in town that had it in stock. It's a 2.0/4.0 single hung window. That means it's 2 feet wide and 4 feet tall. Or that means the rough opening needs to be 24 wide, 48 tall, because the window itself is a 1/2 inch under in both directions. What that means is, in residential window installation on a vinyl window and many others, you nail through this flange, an extruded plastic flange that goes up against the framing. But on the shipping container, I don't have that luxury. It has to slip into the opening, which means I'm going to take my utility knife and simply cut off this flange as tight as I can get it and push the window into the opening. Okay, so let me explain a little bit more, or perhaps replowing the same ground if I've already gone over this. But here's what I've done in making this opening for this window. This is 6x2 eighth wall rectangular tubing, and that's pretty strong, right? I mean, you're thinking overkill Wadsworth. Same thing over there, same thing up here, and this is 4x2. Not as strong, but still plenty strong, and the reason for that is so that I can make a watertight connection at the penetration. It's got to be watertight. But the real thing is this is acting like a little moment frame in construction, which is, it's a steel framework that deals with the overturning moment or the racking moment in this diaphragm, this wall. As soon as I cut this material out, it compromised this big sheet of, what would you say, corrugated Cor-10, probably 14 gauge steel. I crippled it right in the middle. I broke it. It's like cutting a beam in the middle. That's why I put those wedges and steel plates under there, is to hold this floor up so that that bottom member doesn't flex down, because there's actually a hole there for a forklift. It's weak here, and I made it weaker when I cut the metal. But putting this tubing in here, welding it like crazy, which is the next step, is going to replace that strength. All I've got to do is get the setting right on my MIG gun to be able to weld between the Cor-10 and the mild tubing. Got a good fit up. I need a good fit up. So you may have watched me do this in time lapse. You see that cut right there? That's an old man's exhaustion mistake. And that sort of a move I realized was indicative that I was too tired. I made the mental error of thinking I could cut into this strip of Cor-10 because it was going away. I needed to get through this opening with a cord, and I thought, well, I'll just cut a notch. My brain went to sleep. Fortunately, I can weld that full, grind it off, and it'll go away. But sometimes we get a free and inexpensive look at just how tired and brain weary and arm weary we're getting, and that's the time that you're realizing, man, next thing is I might get hurt. Time to quit. So here's how it looks from the inside. It's going to fur out with a 2x4 wall. We're going to spray foam everything. It's going to seal up tight. And if it looks like overkill, it's not. Because I've seen plenty of cheap installs of doors and roll-up doors where they just use angle iron and wrap around there and don't finish the inside. This has got to be, residential grade construction in here. We're dealing with condensation, we're dealing with ventilation, we're dealing with all those issues. And I saw this at the World of Concrete exposition down in Las Vegas last January. I was looking for a lot of things, and one of the things I saw was the way those guys made really nice office trailers out of shipping containers and framed their openings like this. I like it, or at least I will when it's done.
Now, it almost doesn't matter what kind of work you're doing. Concrete forming, framing, woodwork, or steel fabrication, braces and clamps are a big part of the job. And sometimes you just got to be able to improvise and make up something pretty unique to wherever it is you find yourself working.
And if you think I'm going to give you a close-up of that bead, you're sadly mistaken.
So this long, vertical downhill bead is an out-of-position weld, at least for me. And I've got to admit that welding in a long downhill or uphill or awkward position requires a type of strength and focus and endurance that a 67-year-old carpenter is losing pretty darn quickly.
It's 57 degrees in here, and it's going to get down to about 47 tonight, which means since I want to prime this right now so I can paint it tomorrow, I've got to warm that steel up a little bit. So here we go. Probably 150 degrees. Let that breathe for just a second, and I'm going to do the inside. Good old Rust-Oleum. Well, I think that's going to work for the primer. We're going to come out here and brush on the top coat. I got the color matched against the base color of the unit. I've got to put a piece of trim around the inside, but I'll just tack that and then caulk that into place. It's just there to hold the window in and keep the bad guys out. Doesn't have to be too stout. Anyway, once this is done, out of the shop, turn it around to get some daylight in there and start framing the inside.
So with the steel work mostly done, this project will first get moved out of my shop, and I'm thankful for that. And second, it's going to start to resemble, pretty typical construction processes. Framing, spray foam insulation, that's going to be a first for me, by the way. And then surface-mounted electrical components on the inside and hanging a door and, pretty standard stuff. Except it's all happening inside a giant steel box. Game on. Thanks for watching Essential Craftsman, and keep up the good work.